Hello everyone, welcome back to a kind of end of year special video in which I look back at the past year of my Kerbal Space Program content because gosh, hasn't it been a dramatic one, right? We had the termination of Kerbal Space Program 2 and the glorious return back to Kerbal Space Program 1, and I explored mods for the first time, for the first time for real. I did lots of challenges in KSP2 while that game was still active, and so I thought it might be nice, like I did last year, to look back on the year of Kerbal Space Program content on this channel and sort of go through them like a top 10 and, take a little trip down memory lane, I guess. So, yeah, enjoy. At number 10, I'm putting my IVA free... This is a great start. I'm putting my free IVA mod review. So this wasn't really like a really amazing video per se, but I just like reminiscing about this video because it was really, really fun for me to actually film and I guess do the gameplay for. Like, a lot of that video is just real-time footage of me exploring a pre-built space station with like wide-eyed wonder and like, wow, this is so cool. I'm like, this is a completely game-changing mod and it's amazing. And yeah, it was just really fun just exploring a mod that I'd never tried out before. Like I think a lot of my reactions in that video were genuine. Like, it was my first time seeing those modules recorded raw for you guys. So yeah, that was just a really fun video for me to make, and yeah, I think it turned out to be a really fun video for you guys to all watch, I hope. Anyway, number 9 is my Jets to Space video. So I kind of figured that this would do well because the thumbnail just seemed to look really good, and it did end up performing quite well compared to a lot of my other videos this year. And yeah, the premise for this video was to launch satellites into space using only air-breathing engines. So we had this big launcher craft that used the Rapier engines, but only with oxidizer, only with liquid fuel, no oxidizer. So they would flame out once we ran out of breathable air. And then we deploy the payload. The payload would then do the circularization with its own inboard engines, and we'd switch back to the aircraft before it entered the atmosphere. So no quick saving and quick loading shenanigans required, and then fly it back to the Kerbal Space Center's runway, and then later the desert airfield runway, because the excuse I used to make this video was to showcase the amazing weather effects with BlackRack's Volumetric clouds mod. So that was kind of a really fun video to do. I've always struggled with like these fully recoverable missions that don't require F9 and F5, so yeah, it was great to pull that one off. Number 8, I'm putting my base in a box videos. This one didn't get like crazy views, but this is still a project that I really, really wanted to try for quite a while, and I can't believe it took me this long to actually do. And yeah, the title sort of describes the thing, right? I basically built this very, very unrealistic base inside this box, flew it to the mun, landed it on the mun, and then just I did this. I'll play the footage. The footage hopefully is playing on the screen. I did the satisfying thing of, unfolding it and opening it all out slowly and getting all the Kerbals, wandering around. Then a little compact lander that can then fly back. Just a really, I don't know, it's hard to describe. Just a really satisfying mission to pull off. And yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say about that one. At number 7, I'm putting my my janky space shuttle video. So I explored an earlier version of the game, which I can't even remember now. Was it 0.23? I don't know. A 2014 install I found on a whim on an old hard drive. Man, I was like, oh, Kerbal Space Program. This is when I first started playing the game. And yeah, those space shuttle parts back in the day were really something. But I never actually built a space shuttle using those parts back in the day because, they're very ugly. So I thought, let's try and right the wrongs of the past and actually build a space shuttle. I feel like I need to have that under my belt as a KSP YouTuber. So, yeah, that's what I did. And I think the video just... I don't know if it's the video I'm really proud of per se, but I'm just really proud of the fact that I actually now can say that I have built and flown a proper old-school Mark III shuttle and landed it back at the KSC's runway. Know, it was a good little check mark to tick off on my KSP career, I guess. At number 6, I'm putting the grand return of the Blunderbirds. This was my first Blunderbirds mission that I did following the termination of KSP2's development, and yeah, it was kind of a funny premise. The Strandy in question was someone that crashed a vessel on the Mun. 2 Kerbals stranded there. Fairly standard. But then they actually went out and tried to do a rescue mission, which then failed. And then there were 3 Kerbals stranded on the Mun. And that broke my heart. 'Cause I'm like, oh, they've tried to salvage this mission. They have my respect. I'm going to go and finish the job for them. So it's always nice. I don't like just doing standard blunderbirds missions anymore, like just going and getting one Kerbal and then bringing them back. Like, I like to see like more complex missions, or missions that are a bit heartbreaking where the player has really tried to right the wrongs and has just ended up in a worse situation than before. So out of sympathy, I went to do the mission, and yeah, it was nice to break out the old blunderbirds intro once again, and get back in the old saddle, I guess. Now, number 5, it's the first Kerbal Space Program 2 video on this list, and that's my KSP2 tutorial for beginners, episode 1. I was so proud of this video. Like, I spent a very long time very, very carefully thinking about how I was phrasing things and saying things so that people that have never played Kerbal Space Program 1 or 2 could understand it. So I really went through explaining the absolute basics of what a gravity turn is. I showed pictures of like a SpaceX launch to demonstrate kind of the optimal trajectory. And overall, I worked really, really hard on this video to try and make it as accessible as possible. Try, take up the old Scott Manley mantle for KSP2. Sadly, turns out KSP2 no longer a thing. But yeah, and I remember Nate Simpson actually messaged me after that video went live saying he really, really liked the video, and that's the video he's going to send to people whenever they're asking for tips on KSP2. So yeah, although obviously kind of its legacy, it doesn't really have one now because KSP2 is over. But, for a brief moment in time, I was very, very proud of how that tutorial came out. At number 4, I'm putting the complicated Juna Blunderbirds mission. So again, as I said earlier, I kind of like choosing Blunderbirds missions that represent somewhat of a challenge, and this one certainly scratched the itch. I actually wasn't even thinking about Blunderbirds at the time. I just opened the Reddit post and saw that someone had got some Kerbals stranded on the surface of Juna and had a rover many kilometers away that was also stuck and needed rescuing. And I thought there, like in my head, I just thought, oh yeah, I wonder how I would do that. I'd probably do this and do this. And then, the cogs started turning and I was like, actually, I'd really like to do a Blunderbirds mission on this because this sounds like a really fun challenge. And I think it was a really fun video overall. Like, this little detachable, ridiculous, little seat on a little rocket that could leave the main Juna lander and fly across the planet to go and repair the stranded rover and then fly back to the lander where we could get the stranded Kerbals on board and get them back to space and back to Kerbin. Yeah, just a really fun mission. Like, it's hard, I've been doing this for nearly 10 years now. It's hard thinking of kind of unique takes on, stock Kerbal Space Program missions, and this one certainly was that. So, yeah, maybe I'll do more Blunderbirds missions as we move into 2025. Not sure. I definitely, at some point during the year, actually, I'm going to leave this till later. So, yeah, don't click away. I'll do some, like, random spitballing thoughts about my plans for 2025 at the end of this video. But let's move on to number 3, which was my interview with Harvester. So this was in the, basically the immediate aftermath of Kerbal Space Program 2's termination, and I was chatting to Harvester, who is the creator of Kerbal Space Program 1, Felipe Falonge is his real name, and he's actually consulting on Kitten Space Agency as well, so high hopes for that game. Yeah, basically I was just talking to him and letting him give nice, long, deep answers about his thoughts on the whole Kerbal Space Program 2 situation, how KSP1 development ended, and just, his thoughts about how he would have tackled the sequel. And he gave some really, really interesting insights. He wouldn't have just basically done a, remake of KSP1 and then added stuff. He would have started with the things like the colonies as the main game. Like, it's a colony builder, then you add all the KSP stuff afterwards. Obviously, we now know, based on leaks, that KSP2's development would have never permitted that, but it's nice. It's a nice thought to think, if we didn't have all that corporate meddling and Harvester was allowed to consult on the sequel, what we would have had. Anyway, moving on to number 2 is my last Kerbal Space Program 2 video, or at least my last official KSP2 video. I've since done ones about covering bits of news that have come in KSP2's development, but this one was just my last KSP2 mission. And I guess the mission itself wasn't really that substantial, for want of a better word. It was more just a big thing for me. It was a bit of closure. It was an Apollo-style Mun mission, mirroring the very first KSP2 video I made all the way back in February of 2023, before the game even came out. I was at the Amsterdam preview event doing a Apollo-style Mun mission, and yeah, it was a very Red Bull-fueled mission. I was like, really, really pumped up trying to get that mission filmed in the very small window we had to make videos. So yeah, it was kind of a stressful thing to make, and then actually getting that video out, it was a great moment, and this was kind of paying an homage to that, and a lot of people really, really were kind of moved or found the ending montage a little bit emotional, and I certainly did. I remember showing my girlfriend Beth the ending montage of that video, and she started crying. So that sounded cruel. I just started laughing. But yeah, I had a little bit of a lump in my throat watching back the ending of that video, which I won't show in this recap. You can watch it. I'll put links in the description to all of these if you want to check any of them out. But yeah, that was, I guess, not the video itself, but just the impact and I guess the closing of the book, I guess, on KSP2. And speaking of KSP2, my number one favorite video this year was in January 2024. So I guess it was all downhill throughout the year. But it was my No Tech to Elu mission. So this was just after the Force Science update was added. Nate Simpson called me out saying, I suspect Matt Lowne is going to get to Elu using just the first page of the tech tree. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use the whole, I don't even know what they're called. It's been so long. First page of the tech tree. I'm going to go use the first node of the tech tree to get to Elu. So very first launch, very first space agency, I had to get to Elu, which required the heavy use of gravity assists. We had to manage things like, we had no real power generation outside of using our rocket engine's alternator, which mercifully the engine had the ability to recharge our batteries. So yeah, it was just a fun mission, a fun little challenge. I've kind of done all these challenges in like 2017, 2018 in KSP1, so can't really do them anymore. Well, I guess I could, but it'll be repeating myself. So it was nice to do kind of a classic old school Kerbal Space Program challenge. And yeah, I really enjoyed the little accompanying music video I made for that as well. Really, really nice watch. But yeah, it was fun to pull off the challenge. And that's, I guess, all I have to say about that. And yeah, like I say, that pretty much wraps up my top 10 Kerbal Space Program adventures of the year. Do you agree with my list? Do you think I've missed out any videos that I probably should have included? I was thinking about including the recent Blunderbirds mission I did back very recently, like on the 14th of December. But that's like only a couple of weeks ago, and I feel like it's still got kind of that freshness bias. I don't know. And I do think the other Blunderbirds missions were better, so you be the judge. But yeah, my plans for 2025. I've got a couple. I definitely want to try Outer Planets mod. Absolutely. You guys can start recommending me that. At some point, maybe during April, I will play RSS, as people have been asking. And yeah, I really want to do a playthrough of the Community Tech Tree mod. So adds a bunch of mods to the game and redoes the tech tree to add all those mods and integrates it really well. And I'd really like to try that out. So those are kind of the big core things I want to try. And yeah, I'm probably overdue another Starship video as well, because Starship has evolved a lot since I did my recreation all the way back in, 2021, I want to say. I don't know. It was before the first Super Heavy was rolled out. So that's how long ago it was. That's how dated that video is. But yeah, I guess, that's the end of this video, and that's the end of this year. And obviously we're now past Christmas, so I do hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas and have an excellent New Year. And an excellent year, yeah, that's all I really have to say. And thank you, of course, to the patrons who've supported me to the end of 2024. Their name is, of course, on the right-hand side of your screen, as well as 2 videos. Hey, maybe one of them is one of the ones I mentioned on this video. Let me know if one of them is in the comments below. And yeah, thank you. That's it, I guess. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around. I'll have to do a 10-year special as well next year, because, woof, scary thought, eh? 2025, let's go. Quarter century.